Hey, you ever feel like life's playing a joke on you? Like everything's falling apart piece by piece while the world just keeps on spinning like it's not watching you burn? Yeah. People call it bad luck, rock bottom, karma. Some say it's punishment, others call it coincidence, but what if it's none of that? What if the chaos, the silence, the confusion, the delays aren't signs of destruction, but signs of design, isolation? Now there's a tricky little word, isn't it? Most people hear it and think punishment, rejection, loneliness. They start pacing in circles like caged animals, asking themselves what they did wrong. Why the phone doesn't ring anymore, why the crowd that used to cheer suddenly disappeared like smoke in the wind. But maybe it's not about what's been taken away. Maybe it's about what's being prepared. See, people don't realize before elevation comes separation. Before the light, there's silence. You ever notice how the moment you start growing, everything starts shifting? Friends vanish, conversations feel hollow, places that used to comfort you start to suffocate you, and you start wondering if you're cursed, if something inside you broke. But no, nothing's broken. You're just being pulled out of the noise. You're being taken away from distractions, from fake support, from surface level chaos, because you can't hear the whispers of something greater when everyone around you is screaming nonsense into your ears. It's funny, isn't it, how people scream for growth but cry when isolation hits. They want to be chosen, anointed, elevated, but when the shaping begins, they fight it. They beg to go back to the crowd, back to comfort, back to the noise. Because this part feels cold, feels empty, feels like abandonment. But maybe, just maybe, it's the cocoon before the wings, the storm before the revelation, the silence before the symphony. See, no one tells you that divine elevation often looks like disconnection. No one tells you that the higher you're called to rise, the smaller your circle becomes. Because not everyone can go where you're headed. Not everyone can breathe at the altitude you're being prepared for. And that's what cuts the deepest, doesn't it? Realizing the people you thought were forever were only seasonal. Realizing the love you gave so freely wasn't meant to be returned. Realizing your soul was evolving, but your environment wasn't. So what does life do? It removes, it isolates, not to punish you, but to prepare you, to strip away the noise so you can hear your own heartbeat again, to pull you into the quiet where the real work begins. The work no one sees, no one claps for, no one understands, that internal construction zone where your mind breaks down, your spirit rebuilds, your purpose starts whispering again. But oh, it hurts. The quiet, the space, the void, it's almost too loud to bear. But maybe that's the point. Maybe in that silence you start facing things you've been running from. Maybe in that stillness you start realizing what really matters. Maybe isolation isn't empty, it's sacred. Maybe it's the only place where you finally meet yourself without the mask, without the noise, without the pressure to be what everyone else expects. Just you, raw, flawed, unfinished, but real. And while you sit there wondering why no one's checking on you, why nothing's moving, why the universe has you boxed in, maybe something is being planted. Maybe the foundation is being laid. Maybe your roots are being forced to grow deeper because your future needs more than shallow soil. Maybe you're being built in secret so your rise won't need applause. It'll echo all on its own. People think greatness is glamorous, spotlights, stages, applause. But real greatness, real purpose, it's born in isolation. It's carved in the shadows. It's whispered into the ears of the lonely, the forgotten, the misunderstood. The ones who sat with themselves long enough to shed who they were so they could become who they are meant to be. You're not being left behind. You're being pulled aside. You're not being punished. You're being purified. You're not being rejected, you're being redirected. Because some paths you can only walk alone. Some doors only open when no one's watching. And some versions of you can only be unlocked when everything else falls away. Comfort, such a seductive little drug, isn't it? Soft pillows, warm routines, familiar faces, predictable days. People cling to it like a security blanket, convinced that as long as everything feels the same, nothing can go wrong. But you see, nothing extraordinary ever grows in comfort. Nothing divine ever rises from what's easy. Comfort is where dreams go to die in silence. Purpose? Purpose doesn't live there. Purpose lives in friction, in discomfort, in chaos. It shows up in moments that make you squirm, question, scream, beg for peace. That's where the real shaping begins. Funny though, people ask for purpose like it's a gift wrapped in velvet, like it's going to arrive with a pretty bow and applause. But when the shaking starts, when life starts pulling the rug, when everything stable starts to slip, they panic. Why is this happening, they cry. Why does it all feel so heavy? Maybe because your comfort is being dismantled. Maybe because the place you've settled is too small for the size of your... Maybe because you've gotten so used to surviving, you forgot you were meant to evolve. Purpose doesn't knock politely. No, it breaks in like a thief. It shatters routines. It wrecks your calendar. It sends people walking out without warning. It delays the things you thought you needed. It forces you to face versions of yourself you've kept buried under smiles and distractions. And it doesn't come gently. It comes with fire in its hands, not to burn you down, but to burn off what no longer fits the life you were meant to live. You ever wonder why life suddenly gets loud when you start wanting more? Why anxiety creeps in when everything seems fine? Why you feel this nagging itch in your chest even though nothing's technically wrong? That's not coincidence. That's not random. That's your spirit revolting against stagnation. That's the divine whispering, this isn't it, there's more. But more doesn't come without movement, without discomfort, without tension that bends you until you feel like snapping. You start losing sleep, not because you're broken, but because your soul refuses to rest in a place it's outgrown. You start questioning everything, not because you're lost, but because you're starting to wake up. And that's what purpose does. It pulls you apart so you can rebuild from truth, not from habit. And trust me, that tearing sensation you feel in your chest, that's growth. That's expansion. That's life making room for something bigger. But no one talks about that part. They show you the glow up, the success, the applause. But they don't show you the shaking, the nights where you feel like screaming into your pillow, the days when everything feels pointless, the breakdowns in empty rooms, the questions you can't answer, the emotions you can't name. That's the real cost of purpose. That's the transformation nobody claps for. And yet, it's necessary because comfort breeds illusions. It makes you think you're safe when really you're just stuck. It tricks you into thinking stillness is peace when it's actually stagnation. So the universe starts shaking things, pulling levers, closing doors, causing delays, not to destroy you but to wake you, because you won't move until you're uncomfortable enough. You won't shift until the floor starts cracking beneath your feet. That's how humans work. They don't evolve in sunshine. They evolve in storm. And when the storm hits, that's when the truth shows up. That's when you realize who you are without the noise, without the comfort, without the illusions. That's when you see what you're really made of. Not when everything is calm, but when everything is falling apart and you're still standing. That's when your purpose starts whispering louder than your fear. So maybe it's not bad luck, maybe it's not misfortune, maybe your life isn't falling apart, it's breaking open. Maybe the pressure isn't punishment, it's preparation. Maybe the discomfort is the divine hammer chipping away the version of you that was too small for the future you haven't seen yet. And maybe, just maybe, the pain you feel right now is not a sign of something ending, but something beginning. Now here's the part no one wants to talk about. The part that really hurts. The removal, the detachment, the slow, quiet pulling away of everything familiar. Everything you thought you needed to feel whole. The habits, the people, the routines, the comforts. All stripped away, one thread at a time, until you're standing there wondering, what the hell is left of you? But maybe, just maybe, it's not a breakdown, maybe it's a clean slate, maybe it's not a curse. It's a clearing. You see, people cling to things like lifeboats, old relationships, toxic friendships, dead-end jobs, outdated dreams. Because it's familiar, right? It's predictable, it feels safe. Even if it's slowly killing you inside. But life doesn't care about your comfort. Life cares about your alignment. Life has this nasty little habit of ripping away what doesn't fit your destiny. Not because it wants to hurt you, but because it knows what's coming. It knows what you can't see yet. And sometimes the only way to prepare you is to wreck what you're clinging to. People say trust the process like it's some cute little phrase, like it doesn't feel like suffocation in real time, but the truth is, the process doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about your becoming, and becoming requires loss. It requires space, and space only comes when something is removed. So here you are, confused, angry, scared, watching things disappear, watching people go silent, watching doors close without warning. But maybe it's not rejection. Maybe it's realignment. You're not being abandoned, you're being redirected. And that's the sick joke of it all, isn't it? That the things you fought hardest to keep are the very things holding you back, but you don't see it, not yet. All you feel is the sting, the loss, the empty space where comfort used to live. But that's where it begins, right there in the void. That's where something new can breathe. That's where purpose sneaks in and starts whispering, finally, now we can build. But you're still trying to rebuild with the old pieces, still reaching back for what's already walked away, still calling ghosts and wondering why no one answers. You think it's unfair, you think it's cruel, but maybe the universe is saving you from something you would have settled for. Maybe it's saving you from mediocrity disguised as loyalty. Maybe it's saving you from staying in a story that was never yours to finish. And maybe the price of purpose is the death of your comfort zone. Ever tried planting something in a field already full of weeds? It won't grow. It'll suffocate. And that's your life when you try to carry the old into the new. So life clears it, pulls it out from the root, makes space. But oh, how we love our weeds. We water them, we protect them, we wrap them in memories and call it love. But weeds are weeds, and they can't come with you to the next chapter. So the removal begins. At first, it looks like chaos, like sabotage, like betrayal. But look closer. It's precision, strategic, surgical, sacred precision. What's being removed isn't random. It's everything that doesn't serve the higher version of you, the one you haven't met yet, the one that's buried under comfort, fear, and attachments you thought were blessings. But not everything that stays long is meant to stay forever. Some things are just scaffolding, temporary support for a permanent structure. And once the foundation is strong, the scaffolding has to go. But you keep chasing after it, you keep mourning it, you keep thinking something's wrong with you. No, nothing's wrong. You're just in the shift. And shifts are violent, they're messy, they're lonely, but they're necessary. Because there's a version of you waiting on the other side of this removal. A version that's lighter, sharper, clearer. A version that knows how to walk in purpose without dragging dead weight behind her. A version that doesn't beg for crumbs just because they once looked like love. But you've got to let go. Let go of the familiar. Let go of the stories. Let go of the fantasy you built around people who were never meant to stay. Because nothing new grows in clutter. And your spirit, it's craving space, it's craving stillness. It's craving the freedom to expand without being chained to what's comfortable but empty. So life steps in, it cleans house, it makes room, not to hurt you, but to hand you something bigger, something wilder, something real. People, the biggest illusion we ever buy into, the idea that they're permanent, that they'll stay, that the ones who clap the loudest will still be around when the music stops. But here's the twist. They don't. They leave, they fade, they switch up, and you stand there confused, heart cracked, wondering what you did wrong. But what if you didn't do anything wrong at all? What if the exit of those people wasn't an accident, but a divine evacuation? See, you think it's betrayal, you think it's abandonment, but what if it's protection wearing the mask of loss? What if the people walking out were never meant to walk into your future? What if their presence was never about your destiny, only about your development? What if they were just mirrors, temporary reflections showing you your own blind spots? And now that lesson's done, the mirror breaks. We all crave loyalty, consistency, familiar arms to hold us while we grow. But here's the joke. Not everyone who starts the journey with you is meant to finish it. Some were only there for the prologue. Some were lessons dressed as lovers. Some were distractions dressed as friends. And the universe? It sees what you don't. It hears the conversations behind your back. It watches the energy you ignore. And when you won't let go, it does it for you. It snatches them away like a magician pulling a trick you never saw coming. And then comes the ache, the confusion, the silence, you start questioning yourself. You start begging for answers. But silence is an answer too. Maybe you were praying for peace, and that peace required their absence. Maybe you were asking for clarity, and their presence was the fog. Maybe you were crying for protection, and that protection came in the form of disconnection. You just didn't recognize it, because it didn't come dressed in white robes and angel wings. It came dressed in goodbyes and unanswered messages. People don't understand the cost of growth. They think it's all self-love and success stories. But no, it's losing people you thought were lifelines. It's watching the ones you trusted become strangers with familiar eyes. It's realizing that the deeper you go into purpose, the more lonely it gets at the top. Because purpose doesn't cater to your emotions, it caters to your evolution. And sometimes evolution means separation. And here's the cold part. Sometimes the people you begged to stay were the very ones blocking your breakthrough. You didn't see it, but life did. You didn't hear it, but your soul did. And when your soul starts outgrowing your circle, that circle starts to collapse. That's not bad luck. That's divine alignment. That's the universe removing liabilities from your life before you even knew they were dangerous. That's God playing chess while you were still playing checkers. But oh, how we beg for the wrong ones. We hold on with bloody hands to people who were only passing through. We rewrite chapters that were never meant to be reread, and when they leave, we feel abandoned, not realizing we were rescued. Some people are poison in disguise. Some people are lessons dressed in love, and the moment their purpose in your life is fulfilled, they exit, sometimes quietly, sometimes violently, but always on time. You're not being punished, you're being preserved. You're not being left behind, you're being launched forward. And the people who truly belong in your future won't be intimidated by your growth. They won't need to be dragged. They'll walk beside you without you having to shrink yourself. But to get there, you've got to go through the shedding, the burning, the breaking. You've got to feel the sting of empty spaces before you can be filled with purpose. And it's not just about people walking away. Sometimes it's you who starts pulling away without even realizing. You start feeling disconnected from conversations, bored with gossip, tired of shallow energy. That's your spirit creating distance before your mind even catches on. That's your energy rising so high that low vibrations can't even reach you anymore. You don't belong there anymore, and everything not aligned with where you're going will begin to fall off like dead leaves from a tree. Let them go. Let the season end. Let the silence settle. Not everyone was meant to understand the fire in your bones. Not everyone deserves access to the new version of you that's being carved in the chaos. Some people were never meant to see your bloom. They were only there for the soil, the rain, the dark. And now that you're breaking through, they can't come with you. Pain. That strange little creature we all run from. We dress it up, hide it under smiles, drown it in distractions, bury it beneath fake laughs and empty conversations. But it never really leaves, does it? It just waits, patiently, lurking in the silence between your thoughts, in the cracks of your routine, whispering to you when everything else goes quiet. People fear it like it's a curse, like it's a punishment, like it's something unnatural. But what if it's not the enemy? What if pain is the sculptor? They don't tell you that, do they? that pain is the sharpest tool in the divine's toolbox, that growth doesn't come wrapped in joy, it comes wrapped in fire, that the most beautiful transformation doesn't happen in the light, it happens in the shadows, in the moments where you're gasping for air, clutching your chest, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell you're even doing here. That's the real alchemy. That's where souls get forged. Not in ease, but in agony. You see, everyone wants strength, but no one wants struggle. Everyone wants wisdom, but no one wants wounds. But you can't have one without the other. There's no shortcut. There's no bypass. You don't get to become without breaking. You don't get to rise without first being ripped open. That's the cost. That's the deal. You want to carry light, you've got to walk through the fire. You want power, you've got to meet your pain like an old friend and stare it in the face until it tells you what you came here to learn. And pain is an honest teacher. Brutal, yes. Unforgiving, absolutely. But honest. It doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't pretend. It tells you exactly where you're still bleeding, where you're still hiding, where you're still pretending to be fine when everything inside you is screaming. And it's in that rawness, in that ache, that something sacred begins, a breaking that clears space for becoming, a discomfort that forces you to look inwards instead of reaching outwards for distractions. Funny how you only find out how strong you are when you have no choice but to be. Funny how you only realize who you are when everything you were holding on to slips away. That's the twisted beauty of pain. It reveals. It strips away illusions. It shows you what matters. It shakes you so violently that all the masks fall off. All the noise fades and you're left standing there with nothing but your truth. Raw, exposed, real. You start seeing things differently. You stop chasing validation. You stop begging for love in empty places. You start realizing that your worth was never tied to their approval, never rooted in your performance, never dependent on what they did or didn't give you. Pain teaches you that. It teaches you detachment. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you how to rebuild yourself brick by brick, without applause, without anyone noticing, without needing a damn audience. And that kind of growth, that's the kind that sticks. That's the kind that doesn't waver when the winds change. Because it wasn't built in comfort. It was built in chaos. And chaos, my friend, chaos leaves scars. But scars don't mean you're broken. They mean you survived. They mean you walked through the fire and came out carrying embers in your hands. They mean you bled, but you didn't break. You cracked, but you didn't collapse. You burned, but you didn't vanish. But oh, the world will try to shame your scars, try to make you forget the strength it took to wear them, try to convince you that healing should look pretty and polished. No, healing is messy, it's ugly, it's violent. It's crawling through the dark, clawing your way toward a light you're not even sure exists yet. But you keep going. Because something inside you refuses to die quietly. Something inside you knows there's more. That this pain isn't pointless. That this suffering isn't in vain. And maybe, just maybe, the pain isn't punishment. It's permission. Permission to stop settling, permission to stop pretending, permission to finally stand in your truth, even if it shakes your entire world, because once you've tasted pain, like that. Real pain. Nothing shallow will ever satisfy you again. You won't tolerate lies. You won't chase crumbs. Pain changes your appetite. Pain makes you crave depth, makes you crave meaning, makes you crave a life that actually feels like it's yours.